Hi, I'm Leslie Meredith with Breakbulk Events and Media. I'm here in Dubai. We've just finished a panel on talking about Saudi Arabia, a number of different issues associated with that country and the situation that's happening now. I have Captain Gamal Fekri with me, MCS. Welcome.
Thank you.
So great for you to join us here after your panel. Give us a couple of the high points of the discussion, the key points that you think people need to know.
First of all, thank you for inviting me to this event, and it's a great success. I see quite a large crowd, much more than I thought, which is very good.
That's good.
The session was well attended, which reflects the interest in Saudi Arabia affairs. But let me start first by highlighting the fact that Saudi Arabia remains one of the best and strongest economy in the Middle East. They have a GDP in circulation of $700 billion, so therefore it remains the biggest economic force in the region. What we have highlighted today is the significant projects that Saudi Aramco is undertaking, that the country is doing, the initiative that the country is doing to actually enhance the credibility and the marketability of the services there. And we talked about the size of the project that is being projected in Saudi Arabia, as well as the mega project in Neom city, and where the funds and the IBO of Saudi Aramco.
All right. Well, tell us, are there opportunities for companies outside of Saudi Arabia to participate in some of these huge projects you mentioned?
Absolutely. I think the whole objective behind the Saudi initiative is to bring in foreign investment and bring in level. They don't need the fund for the foreign investment, but they actually need the initiative and the project execution. They have a massive list of projects themselves, and they have a big agenda for it. But of course, they have to arrange the fund from their own.
Right. And that's somewhat different than the way it was in the past. Would you say more open to world investment, world participation?
Absolutely. Saudi Arabia is well known to be a very restrictive country and very, very challenging to do business with. And I myself worked for a Saudi company and opted to set up the company in the Emirates.
Really? Why is that?
Yeah. That's because of the challenges that we were facing in and out of the country. I mean, I was a chief executive of a shipping company and I was a member of the board, yet I had it very difficult to come in and out of the country. So therefore, I brought the whole company, set up the company outside in Dubai, and we have managed to make a success story out of it. So the challenges and also the restriction that came recently, as well as the cost that have been introduced over the residence fees and what have you, have made it very challenging to be there. So therefore, a lot of people opted to come out of Saudi Arabia.
Right, and what effect has that had on the local economies?
Well, that's had a very bad or negative impact on the economy, because when you impose a fees on the residents and the individual cannot afford or sustain this cost, of course they will naturally have to send their families back to their countries and they stay there alone. So a family of 5 have now become just a family of 1, and therefore the schools have got less attendees, the shops have got less shoppers, the supermarket has got less.
So real domino effect.
Absolutely, it's a domino effect. One slides have taken up the rest, and this is of course with an initiative to increase the company's revenue, but it's impacted on other regions.
Do you think the government will step in and make changes?
I believe so. I'm a great believer that Saudi Arabia's new government and new ruler are very smart people, and they will look at it, they will reassess the situation, and they will bring in the country. I think nothing better example than the Neom city, the project in the northern Saudi Arabia, which is one of the significant projects of the whole region. In fact, it will be one of the biggest projects of the whole region. And I'm sure that you know that Neom city was just driven by the success that the UAE have managed to achieve by the free zone area. So therefore, they want to make a free zone example, but in a bigger way. This will be the only project in the whole world that will be cross-border, in fact, across continent, if I may say. That will cover nearly an average of 26,500 kilometers, It will go into the border of Jordan, will go into the border of Egypt or with Egypt, and will also go outside to the sea by 12 kilometers, 12 miles. So therefore, there will be a massive area where free trade are coming in, where free enterprise are coming in, subject to a totally separate rule from what it is in Saudi Arabia.
That's amazing. So what's the timeline for that?
I have no idea yet, because the execution of this project is totally dependent on the funds that's going to become available. That project will require in excess of $500 billion. Now, Saudi Aramco IPO, or initial public offering, is one of these means to achieve this funding. And when the funding is achieved, therefore we have to wait how well will the public offering go, and how well will be shareholders receive interest in Saudi Aramco to see that the funds are available.
So tell me, in your view, what is the significance of this IPO?
First of all, it will enhance Saudi Arabia tradability and marketability tremendously. It will release all the investment and foreign investment from the restriction of the Saudi system, and the fact to bring them into a free zone area where you can own your own company, you can own your own land, you can own your own building, and therefore encourages funds and in projects to come into it. It will make available funds for the $320 billion required for other projects in terms of solar power, alternative energy, etc., etc.
Right, so we're not just talking about oil and gas.
No. That public offering, fair enough, it would be from a company that's involved in oil and gas, but to reflect to the total infrastructure of Saudi Arabia. It will go into a total new city by itself, in addition to the national project that's currently being proposed.
And timeline for that?
The timeline in 2020, 2021 will complete the IPO, and that will be the driver of the NEOM city. Either that, or they will go into a different scale of execution. But as I said, that requires a lot of speculations in how well the IPO will go.
Right. Well, assuming that it goes well, what advice would you have for companies that want to participate in all of those projects on the horizon in one way or another, whether it's a developer or a shipping companies such as yours?
I think.
How do you get into that?
As I mentioned earlier on the session, Saudis remains one of the best economy and strongest economy, and therefore Saudi Aramco is the arm of the activities there. Talk to Saudi Aramco, approach them into different. Saudi Aramco has their fingers in every pie in the country, so it's not just oil and gas. Saudi Aramco is involved in everything, in all the infrastructure of the country. And I think talking to Saudi Aramco or being an approved tender of Saudi Aramco is a significant success towards your business success.
Absolutely. So before we close, I want to hear a little bit about your company.
Well, I used to be the chief executive of a shipping company called Red Sea Marine Management. That was a Saudi-owned, and it has a massive, big fleet portfolio of oil and gas, oil, chemical, and gas fleet. But yet, we opted to establish the company in UAE. In doing so, we have avoided some of the complexity and the challenges that we have in Saudi Arabia. But yet, we maintained some of the ships as a Saudi flags to take advantage of the Saudi generosity in terms of tonnage tax exemptions and bunker subsidies.
Sounds like a lot of smart moves there.
Indeed, it was indeed a business success story, and I'm so proud of it.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
inviting
sharing
us.
all this
Thank
great
you.
information.
Thank you.